Dude, okay, so this is nuts. You and I literally had a phone call, decided that you need to like record some long form. So now here we are. We're gonna like do like a little mini interview for you, Kyle, and then we're just,
Just
gonna like,
going
send
for
it.
it.
Yeah, we're just going for it. And dude, I can't remember, and I think I would love if you remind. How did we end up getting connected?
So we got connected through LinkedIn, and I think you definitely connected and sent a message right away. And that was the same exact day that I had literally tile mud drying on my hands because I was retiling my entryway in my house. And you were like, dude, maybe let's just have a phone call right now. And we sent it just much like right now, I guess. So that was the initial connection.
That's so fun. Yeah, I think that's the story of our relationship. Just send it. Yeah, dude. Well, and then we got on that call, and it was like another hour-long call, and we're like, wait, what the heck? Like, I'm just vibing with this guy. What the heck's going on here?
Yeah, you got good energy, man. It's like it's definitely contagious. So it's good. I think I 1,000% that bucket of mud that I had turned into concrete to where I had to go buy more at Home Depot, but it was well worth it.
Yeah, I actually, thinking back, I remember the tiling image. You're like, dude, I can't hop on the call right now. Let me finish tiling this floor, and then we can talk. I was like, okay, I like this guy's energy, dude. Well, so let's make this a little bit more about like your journey, because I think it's super interesting. I think that's part of the reason like you and I vibe together, which is like I think you've just done some of the coolest things, and like I know at the end we're gonna like. I mean, the reason we keep talking is because we're geeking out on the same things. So, like the initial connection was the fact that we were like both veterans, both Navy veterans, and you had like a crazy cool journey. Tell me a little bit about like what brought you into the Navy and how that journey was joining.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is like a non-traditional background is everything that I've kept pointing to, especially as trying to find jobs out of the Navy. You're like, someone will look at your resume and be like, what am I going to do with you? But yeah, dude. So right out of high school, I got into concert touring. So I was an LED video engineer setting up for concerts and events. So my first gig was Jay-Z, and it was unreal. And I did that for toured around the world and did that for 5.5 years. So I loved it. That was an awesome career and a good way to spend the late teens and early 20s. But I had a call to serve that kind of hit me when I was on tour in Spain with a singer. And dude, I read an article about a bomb that went off in Syria, and they used some pretty graphic imagery with, I know you have a brother, it was two boys, that it just reminded me of my brother and myself. And I was like, dude, I'm partying in Spain, living an amazing life. But I was like, dude, there's other people that are obviously not. And dude, it hit me. And I swear to you, after I read that article, I was like, I got to start running. So, yeah, like a little Forrest Gump in me. But yeah, dude, so then I started looking into it, ended up taking almost like a year off from work just to train, ended up going in with a contract, and spent 8 years in the Navy.
Wow. And so when you ended up like deciding to like go for this long Forrest Gump run, like what was it about like the decision to join the Navy? Like how did you even know what you wanted to do, and like how did you end up deciding and getting into that?
So even ironically, I guess, some of friends from high school, we went and took an ASVAB back when we were like, 17. So I kind of had an itch a little bit where I was going to actually go for RASP and do Ranger School. Ended up having a long conversation there, and I felt at that time in my life I had wrongfully, but like understandably, felt like money was more of an importance, like a calling there, right? So in concert touring and events, like you can make quite a lot of money and do cool things. So it kind of like scratched that itch, but in the end, when you get down to it, it's quite meaningless and it doesn't really give fulfillment. So yeah, like I kind of went down that road a little bit, but then I guess I always kind of had that itch in me to go and try for something. So yeah, as I looked into it, it was like, maybe whether it's right or wrong, I've always held myself to a high standard. So when joining, I was like, dude, I want to do something that I'm going to be proud of, and something that's going to be extremely challenging. So I ended up going into special forces, and yeah, actually initially I joined with a SEAL contract, and sadly it didn't work out. I threw my back out, and you need a back to do that. But I was extremely fortunate to have gotten a Navy Special Operations EOD contract after that I went through it and passed. So,
dude, that's so sick. Yeah, and yeah, I had a ton of buddies who ended up in the teams, and actually a bunch of people who ended up becoming EOD officers. So I'm sure there's like some overlap there of people you probably ran into. Dude, that's such a wild experience. Like, talk to me about like what it was like going through the beginning of the bomb school journey. And I know like the pipeline for that is nuts. Yeah, talk to me about some of the beginnings of that experience.
it was so interesting because like my whole kind of period going through that year, taking off from the concert touring, I was training and like getting mentorship, and through the mentorship I had never once heard of EOD. I really hadn't, and it was such a funny thing, an ironic thing, kind of looking back to, especially like knowing the story of like Draper Kaufman and like the UDTs and EOD had a split, and I just never heard about it. So being able to get that contract, and as that came up, funny, it was like I got the selection, I heard it was going to be difficult, and I didn't Google, I didn't look up Reddit, I didn't even do anything. I was like, well, you know what, let's just see how it goes. So definitely, probably not the smartest thing to do, but at that point in my life too, I think I was just like a little bit of a glutton for punishment. But yeah, dude, it was so thrilling. And so a little story, I guess. So as going through, in order to get the EOD contract, going as a basically someone who failed training, you have to go and get selected again. So we, and a few of my fellow classmates that were lucky enough to get at least screened for selection, we went and had to run a PST. And it was so funny. All of us, the night before, I think it was like spaghetti. So all of us like crushed carb load spaghetti. And I will not forget him. Senior Chief Groupie, who ran it, was an absolute homie. He was a guy that like would come to you, and San Diego guy that was like, I just got out of the drink, which is a term for surfing, with some of you San Diego guys. He's like, I just got out of the drink. I'm going to go right back in. You guys hurry up and do this run so I can get back to it. Every single one of us threw up after the PST, and he was like, I'm picking all of you guys. Which I don't know if it's a testament to us being out of shape or just, the spaghetti. But yeah, dude. So I guess that's a long way to say, like, it was a journey and an adventure through EOD school. Sometimes it's an interesting thing. You have skill sets, and then other people around you have skill sets, and you obviously have weaknesses, and they do too. And it's a funny thing just thinking back how you were really, really, really good at some things, and other ones you were like, you just trying to claw your way through, and like leaning on all the guys around you of like, guys, it's going to be a late night studying, and I need all you guys, all hands on deck, So, but it was good. Yeah, it was really good.
That's nuts. I mean, I at some point was interested in this stuff, and so I did some of my research, but I'm curious, like, the pipeline I know is like 2 years, you're like diffusing bombs, or like learning how to defuse the bombs, and you get like 2 tries per bomb, and if you fail the second time, you're like totally out. Like, tell me a little bit about that like pipeline, and like maybe a story or two around that experience. Like, what was the average day like, and how would you spend it?
Yeah, dude, it's so interesting. So the pipeline, it's about a year and a half, and that's not including any roles. Initially, and things have changed since I've been through, because it's coming up crazy enough, like 9 years now, which is a little mind blowing. But you get like the large physical portion is in the first month, and that's in Great Lakes, and that's where a majority of the attrition comes from. And then from there, you roll into dive school, and dive school is another set of attrition from there. And then it's, I would say, a little less mental, right? And not mental in the sense of like mental strength, but more like intellectual. I think a lot of people can, do that pretty decently as long as they put their mind to it. But EOD school was definitely another animal. That's one where it's a lot of the things that you're being taught is like, it's classified information, where you're not able to just like take study material home and like, cram. It's one of those where you're getting there at 4:30 in the morning. You're leaving at 5 p.m. So you have morning and afternoon studying, but there's a hard cutoff, and everything that you're doing, you're drinking from a fire hose of information, and then brain dumping whatever you can do to just like hold on for the next one. And it was unreal. But there were some really amazing things that it kind of taught me. Is like everyone has a different aptitude for learning. And they did a really fantastic job of actually like educating in all those facets. So like, as well as anyone in the military, you're going to get some PowerPoint. You're definitely getting some PowerPoint. So we had that, but their ability to like facilitate hands-on learning was unmatched. And the caliber of instructor and people as well there, but the caliber of instruction was unreal, to where, sometimes your fingers crossed that you get like the instructor, but all these instructors that you go as you go into different phases as well are the ones that are not only teaching you, but also evaluating you as well. So I don't want to say it's a personality contest, but at a certain point too, like everyone wants to also work with who they like. But yeah, you try not to piss people off at the same exact time. So
Yeah, dude, Kyle, you're gonna make me like straight up like pull this out of you. Like, talk about some cool bomb stuff that you guys learned. Like, you're like totally avoiding it. You're like talking about the instructors and personality types, which is like, I'm sure, like a very dynamic side of the house. But like, what sort of stuff were you learning? Like, how to like literally defuse bombs? Like,
yeah, so you are gonna have to pull it out of me, I guess.
yeah.
It's
Dude,
interesting.
I mean, and I know, like, for you guys, it's like all about being the quiet professional and like being very humble about your profession. And so, like, part of this conversation is like intentionally pulling it out of you to tell your story, because like people want to hear this stuff. Like, people want to geek out on you about it, be amazed at it, and like you can still be humble about it, but like you can brag a little bit. Like, it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it is. You're right. So they do a really good job of laying a fundamental down. So when you talk about diffusing bombs, that's a very like vast, obviously, and intentionally so, like a vast topic, but they break it all the way down to science first and foremost, where it's like, all right, you have fire, oxygen. They just break it down to where like they take a layman, right? Because you go there, you just got done with dive school, you think you're awesome, you can do 20 pull-ups and like you have abs. And then they're like, all right, nothing you guys can do matters. Like, now it's time to like, actually cram some real information in you. So yeah, it starts with that fundamental of like, what is an explosive? What is an ignition? And it just builds on itself, where you have the divisions where we are literally like coming across a grenade that's unpinned, and like, what do you do? And then the same thing too, where you have UXO that is either buried or not buried. Like, how do you go about identifying how safe that is, and rendering that safe if so? And additionally too, like there's, for example, IEDs, that is the exact, that's where all the sexiness is, you could say. And dude, you're in a bomb suit, just like sweating up a storm, just, the whole red blue thing, right? The color doesn't matter, don't worry about the movies, but you cut the wrong one. This is training, so it's not like you're going to go for it, but yeah, it's amazing. We literally are, at the end of it, you're an extremely competent EOD technician that can, whether it's normal military ordnance, or that some malactor has created of an improvised explosive device, you're extremely capable to where you can go and handle that situation, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's so sick, dude. This is the juicy stuff, and I feel like the military like puts in like these hilarious terms of like render safe. Like, dude, you're literally defusing a bomb. Like, that is so sick. Yeah, so like, dude, okay, sweet. Now we're getting into juicy stuff. So, like, what was that like first moment of like, holy shit, I'm like defusing a bomb? Excuse my language. Like, holy cow, like I'm defusing a bomb for the first time. Like, what the heck just happened? Like, what was that like sensation like for you?
Dude, I am like the most anticlimactic person about this, probably. Like, I've always kind of lived a little bit on the edge, where I never really had that. Like, I think I'm more afraid of heights, where when we finally like jumped out of an airplane, I was like, wow, dude, that was gnarly. But yeah, I don't know. It just, explosives never really did it. I was just like, all right, this is just something that I, need to do. You have steps for it, and you can kind of think through it and problem solve. And that was even in country the same. I never really hit me. I don't know.
Yeah, alright, so this is a, like, classic, like, cool spec ops guy, like, BS, because you're like, oh, yeah, it's just, like, a casual day, we're just normally doing this. Like, that's so classic. Like,
I'm so afraid of heights, and everyone knows it, so, like, there's no, but, like, yeah, just, I don't know, it's just two different things for me, I guess, so.
Yeah, dude, it's so badass because I had a classmate and we had such different life career paths. Like, I ended up being like a crippy and a real nerd, and she ended up being this like badass EOD officer. And she's like, yeah, I learned how to like use a knife and like use it against the jugular, and like I got tossed out of a helicopter and almost died. And like my job is like diving throughout the Pacific Ocean and finding mines from World War II and then defusing those. I'm like, dude, we are living two different lives right now. This is nuts. So yeah, that's so sick. So you went through training. You did the dive school. You did the bomb defusing school. You went through like some shooting and moving and jumping. Did you go to any like additional advanced schools after that before you went to like your first kind of like team?
They have a pretty good, so like everyone has to go through ECS, right, to Expedition Combat School, which is hot, as you probably know it, dude. We have like advanced tactical training that we go to, and I believe now they're integrating free fall into a location. I don't know if they've picked that location yet, but yeah. So my advanced schools were gotten after I checked in. So luckily I checked in at a good time. Most of the mobile unit, I ended up getting mobile unit 6 on the East Coast in Virginia Beach, and everyone was pretty much deployed. So the good thing about that, and the bad thing, right? You don't meet everyone right away, but you kind of have like, it's pretty relaxed. And then also as schools pop up and there's funding to be used, the new guys that kind of get in that sweet spot get farmed out to schools. So that's kind of what I wrote. I instantly went to SEER, which I actually loved. I thought SEER was awesome. I'm a little weird in that. And then I also got extremely fortunate to go to free fall right away too.
That's so sick. So talk me through some of like really briefly, like the tours that you kind of went through and some of the experiences around that, and maybe tell like a story or two too. And then at the end of that, we'll like move into like the transition piece of it.
Yeah. So I got very fortunate. My first one was a mobility team where I got to deploy with SEAL Team 8. So that was my first one. I got to go to Somalia, which was an interesting place to say the least. And then after that, I got to try out for a crisis response force team. And that was with the Army ODAs, which was 2 deployments with them. So I got to do 3 deployments, one with the SEAL teams and the others with the Army ODAs. And so it was cool. I always talk shit to both of them at the same time, which helps, It's like, well, the SEALs were way better than this guys. And absolutely so. It's like, man, the Green Berets, they have you guys here. But yeah, dude, I think it was really an awesome experience as far as like stories. I mean, there's definitely plenty. Anything you're curious about with that, I guess? I don't know.
Like, I think people would just be interested in like maybe like obviously a scary moment's always fun, or a time you guys did something cool. Did you guys? I mean, I'm guessing you probably didn't like parachute into an op or anything like that, right? Like, yeah.
No, sadly not. That would be awesome though.
Yeah, you were moving in from like a Ford Opera. Yeah, I don't know. Like, were there any just like moments where you're like, wow, I can't believe I get to do this for a living, and like my job is to like defuse bombs and like run around with these like guys who are very competent with guns. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, very. A lot of times there was it's like it's such a funny dichotomy, and I'm sure you had it as well, where it's like, for an example, you're like going and like sweeping up something in the corner, and you're like, dude, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this. Like this sucks, And then oppositely so, you're like doing something so cool, you're like, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this. There's something that's amazing about what the military is able to like give you and also like take from you as well, right? Like it's a balance. But yeah, dude, I had a lot of moments like that were I was just taken aback, man. Like you really, I try and be in the present as much as I can and not like striving to get things done as hard as that is as an achiever, as you know. But yeah, dude. So yeah, there was definitely a few. There was one. So you go through almost a year and a half workup right before you deploy. So it's a pretty intense period, literally top tier evaluations that go on through that. And one thing that I love about the teams in general is that you get a lot of very candid feedback. So there's nothing worse than, having someone that just says yes on your team, right? And just said, you're doing great. And that's the opposite of what you'll get in EOD for sure, which is great. Everyone holds each other accountable and there's always something that you can do better. So yeah, that was the workup cycle as like a new guy was, very eye-opening, where you got to like brain dump a lot. And then, all the stuff that we learned in EOD school that said, this is how you do it. You go in and then the old guys are like, all right, forget all that shit. Like, it's time to like get it on and really learn. But yeah, there was one where we had in Somalia, we rolled up an arms dealer that was there that we were looking at. And in it, they got his vehicle back and they're like, all right, there's 3 double stacked metal cases. This is a very small car too, mind you, one that you can't even find in America. It's so small. He had 3 stacks of artillery boxes in the back. And if you know, like artillery boxes, they have the wooden, right? It's a wooden crate, very extremely awkward to open or lift or anything. And generally with EOD, like a general rule is like remote means, like that's, you want to make sure you know what you're dealing with.
Like
and
diffuse remotely, is that what you're saying?
yeah, and then also like open remotely, ideally, right? Like it is protecting personnel and property first and foremost, and that includes you as personnel. So you're not like, what is the hurt locker? That's not you're not that guy. Not always, but dude, so this is my very first time like actually seeing like live ordnance, and it was so funny. My team lead that was there was. I was just thinking about like everything we're going to go do. I was like, okay, well, like, how are we going to do this? All of a sudden, like the door opens and like triple stack. These are probably like 300 pounds each, right? And you're like, how do you remote this? And he just walks over to it and he opens it up. And I was like mind blown a little bit. And I was like, we don't. And that was a extremely awesome lesson. Because one, like you go through training and everyone like uses those to booby trap and everything else. But there's an aspect of like critical thinking that I didn't exactly think through, obviously, but wasn't able to understand yet. It's like every single problem requires like a new set of understanding and then like, aperture to look through. And, as you have someone that's more experienced, like a team lead like that's been there 3 times, that's able to like know the environment and know that someone that was rolled up that had no idea who was going to get rolled up, that is transporting arms all the time, is not going to try and blow up all the time. So he's just doing business. Like it just is one of those situations. So that's one story, I guess, from the desert. That was pretty interesting.
That's so sick. Yeah, and I think you and I were texting the other day, and you put it so aptly, like you can like chase this high of like the next cool thing and the next cool mission, and like, I mean, this was probably the start since it was like your first kind of introduction to doing all this stuff. And yeah, I think you put it aptly of like chasing the dragon. Like there's just always the next cool thing. You're always trying to do the next thing. And so your transition out of the EOD world was like you were screening for this top tier unit and you had this like epiphany. Either was it during screening or after screening that caused you to leave the military? Like, could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was during, man. It was really interesting because everything in my being felt like that's where I wanted to be. And it was like, I think a week before that feeling kind of hit me when I was doing a run. I think I was doing a 3-mile timed run, and it's hard to put into words, but it's like this feeling of, I don't want to say dread, but it's like, it is a true feeling that the direction that you're going is not where you're meant to be. That's the hardest way for me to probably describe it, which probably isn't that good. But I still knew that I needed to like go and just see past the initial screening process. And then during actually the same day and the night, I think it was like 6 p.m. that night, dude, it hit me, man. It literally hit me. And I guess around maybe 2 p.m. that day, I have 2 little girls. I had never thought about more mortality once. And I think I was, 25 feet in the air on an obstacle course, maybe 20. And dude, all I could think about was the girls. And that's never happened my entire career. And I think that's where the feeling originated. And I just knew that the direction that I was going was not one that, it's not where I wanted my life to be going. And I could tell clearly whether it's gut, heart, spirit, anything else was letting me know that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I basically, I left. I was like, I know that that's not the direction I want to go. So I'm extremely good, at least, of like not dragging things on where it's like, okay, I don't know where the direction is going to be at that time, but I at least know it's not here. And I can't tell you like the weight that was off my shoulders, like getting to come home and being like, I'm so glad I'm not like striving for this. I know this isn't it anymore. So it like opened my field of fire, to start setting sights on other things.
Yeah. That's so sick that you And I think like it's rare that people would like listen to their gut intuition like that so often, and make such a drastic choice, because what you were going through is like this really high end stuff. I'm sure you were doing really well. And did you end up getting an offer while you were there, or anything, or did you leave halfway through it? Like it was the end of the selection. Yeah,
I left through it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like that is like very few people even get the chance to do that opportunity, and like to have the like to know yourself well enough to be like, yeah, this isn't the right thing. I gotta go check out what else is the right thing for me. That I think that's like so sick, because it's not as like cool and sexy as like, yeah, and then I passed the screening and then I like did all this badass stuff. But I actually think it's way more impressive and takes way more courage to like go off the beaten path and like follow what your heart is saying. So like talk me through like where your head was at, like what was the transition like leaving the military. Like I definitely know the experience myself that it's tough, but like I would love to hear about like what was that like for you, and where did you first land?
Yeah, man. Difficult is hard to really put into words, and as you know, so my main priority, because I mulled on it a lot, right, and I had time to, and I think I'm all about swift action, as you know. I'm with you on it, where it's like, hey, dude, like we have an idea of what we want to do. Let's hit it, and let's hit it hard. But there is a certain point where it makes sense for big life changes, right? It's a balance, because if you take too long, you can do analysis paralysis. But oppositely so, like if you don't look at it, you could lead into decisions that have long-term kind of effects in a negative way. My main thing was like reorganizing my priorities, because at the time I basically had that was the epiphany, right? My priorities had changed. My priorities had changed from serving my country to now serving my family. So with that, my agreement, that I made, married with my wife, I still am, probably because I made this agreement. I was like, look, I dragged you across the other half of the United States. I was like, now it's your turn. Like your turn to drag me, right? And we wanted to be by family, especially with having small children. So that was it, man. It was like I knew that like for the transition, I at least needed to put her first, and then after that, everything else would follow. A lot harder doing it that way, I will say. Like being selfish is probably extremely easy when you start thinking about other opportunities that come up, as I later found out. But it doesn't mean that my decision was wrong. It just means that it wasn't easy.
Yeah, I believe that. So you ended up like, where did that decision take you? Like you obviously went to where family was. Like where did you end up, and how did that like next career piece kind of fall into play?
Yeah, so I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. So luckily for me, I had time, right? Right when I stopped from that screener, we have a pretty amazing medical and training human performance team. And I ended up getting screened and for some TBI aspects. So I got to go and kind of get shipped off to a treatment facility called Shared TBI and Spinal Injury Center down in Atlanta, which was amazing. And during that time, I also was able to evaluate as well, and also go through the Honor Foundation, which is a transitionary program, which was unreal. All that being said, knew I was going to go and move to where my wife was from, which turned out being Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is not a sprawling metropolis, but it has its own character. But that did mean, though, that it not being like an epicenter of commerce meant that the options would also be cut as well. So that was kind of the thought, and that's where I ended up. And extremely fortunate. I could not be more fortunate to have actually like followed through and moved down here. Now looking at it, but at the time, it was a very, very difficult decision. Especially my family's in Atlanta, so I had gotten job offers for Atlanta and also gotten job offers for California and moving other areas of the U.S. But that exactly counteracted the priority set, so had to scrap it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm sure that was tough because you were like getting all these offers from probably from buddies in the Honor Foundation helping you out, like connect with the right people. Let me first just say, dude, gotta commend you for like taking care of yourself. For like that medical piece and like the TBI stuff. I know that stuff's not easy, and then like even more commend you for like being vulnerable about it and like even sharing that, because I know that stuff's not always the easiest to talk about. So like you made this journey, you went to Baton Rouge. Like, how'd you decide on like what are you gonna do next?
I got extremely fortunate. You might even say like I was able to take like the coward's way out, even because I still had a lot of connections with concert touring and events. So I looked through hell and high water for remote positions, applied, connected. I mean, you name it, dude. I was going for it, and the only thing I could always land was like non-remote gigs. Um, so I like the coward's way, like a little bit of nepotism there because I already had a good reputation, and I it's so fortunate, dude, to have just been able to make phone calls from some past buddies I was able to keep in contact with and instantly get work. So my family and I didn't like, we weren't like worried about making any payments or anything else, which we're so blessed for. But that decision, right, counteracted me being around for the family, and actually, like, although it could provide for us, and I actually find it extremely fun and exhilarating, obviously, but it was one of those where it was like it was pulling me away from that priority and being around the family. But so that's what I ended up doing for
That was concert touring.
Yeah, concert touring.
Yeah.
So I went back into it. That was because I ended up getting out in May of 24, and then did concert touring for a couple months at different shows throughout the U.S. I definitely was able to learn through the Honor Foundation for the power of networking and kind of never stop networking. You say it a lot with like expanding your surface area, and dude, it's so true. It's like it's kind of like an unreal thing, an unlock once you really do realize that. But being able to have a platform like LinkedIn, right, to see people who you're 1 degree or 2 degrees separated from, and any veteran, and I'll say this now, like, and you can, I know you'll agree with me, like any veteran you reach out to, if you're a veteran, will reach back out to you. I promise you it will happen. And if they don't, it's because they don't have the app anymore. So like expanding that surface area was basically what I was doing unknowingly, but we'd call it like coffee chats basically with the Honor Foundation. And I just kept doing that. And I got extremely fortunate where, I just got done with a show, Aventura, if you know Aventura, out of New York. And I got to do that. And my wife was like, "You're so done. Like, get off the road." And it was at that same time where I actually got connected with Patrick Flood with Owners of Honor, Pride Green Beret, who's running an amazing nonprofit, who then connected me to two veterans down here in Baton Rouge. And one of them down here was working at a private equity company. And Ryan, I got to talk with him, and he literally sent an email the day after we got lunch and connected me with the consulting company.
Wow, dude, what a journey! Yeah, and dude, literally, you massively increase your surface area luck. Like the stars aligned, and like you made it happen. That's so sick.
So he know the owner, and after meeting with him, I was like, dude, this is a special company. This is one that they have a profound culture that I was extremely kind of like surprised to find in the wild, out of the military. And I even, it's so funny. So like I reached out to email, and Nick, the owner of this consulting company, Emergent Method, he reached out an email. He's pretty busy, so I wasn't able to catch him right away. And finally ended up coming in for a morning interview. And the first thing he says to me is hilarious, because this is like, it's like, Ryan gave me your resume, and he like had it in his hand. He's like, I looked it over, and he's like, I'm going to be honest with you. He's got a Southern accent too. I'm not going to do him a disservice, though. I can't do it. He's like, I'm going to be honest with you. If I looked at this, if this came across my desk without someone recommending it, I would swipe it right back in the trash. He's like, I have no idea what to do with this. So that's how the interview started, just for reference. So it was basically me trying to fight for value a little bit. But, it was we had a great conversation. We went like 30 minutes over time, almost like an hour and a half, which then proceeded to get 4 different hour interviews back to back. So I did 5-hour long interview session with the team, which HR was like, I promise this isn't normal, so sorry. And they're amazing. They were all amazing. It was a great conversation, really. Yeah. And after that, I kind of knew walking out, I was like, okay, it's a cool company, and they definitely want me.
Yeah, that's so sick. And it's so awesome when you have such like a perfect fit, especially after you going all the way back, had that epiphany moment, like, hey, I gotta get out of the Navy. I got to go do something else. I'm not quite sure. And then you go through this interview phase after like kind of hitting the touring thing, but that wasn't quite right. And you have these interviews, and you're like, yeah, this is the place. I think this is the right place for me. And so did you ended up taking that offer and then like working there for a bit, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I did. So obviously we'll get to that, but like today was actually my last day at that at the consulting company. But I ended up spending a little over 6 months at the company, helping out with their clients and running and leading some pretty big projects there.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, and you said phenomenal people, great company, but what like 6 months is short. So like what was the story around like such a short time frame, and you put your 2 weeks notice, a couple of weeks ago, and today's the day. What drove
Dude.
all of that?
Yeah, it's definitely multifaceted to say the least. But I as you know, like the veteran statistic getting out, it's like a major percentage do not make 1 year in their first company. And I did want to counter that. Like that was my main goal, was to go there to crush it, right? Because in a way, I don't know if you ever felt this. It's like a veteran going into the civilian force, or the private sector, excuse me. It's like you have a feeling of like, I need to represent for the veteran community. Like I don't need to come here and like be a shitbag, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, we're never hiring a veteran again. Even for me, like having private sector experience before, going to the military and then coming back out, it's like I carry the veteran name on the shoulders, and we want to represent and do well. So funny going in. I was like, I'm not going to be that statistic, but that's also not realistic. And I realized that was not realistic to like hold myself to that, because it's not about a number. It's not about a time. After 1 year, you have 1 year and 1 day, and it's all of a sudden, okay, time to, if you want to move, then you can go. But yeah, dude, so it was a short time. It was shorter than I initially planned for, but it was also one that I felt like quite purpose driven as well. You could call the gut the sixth sense, so it was leading me again for the fourth time in my life, I guess, or more. But this was an interesting situation where, just to backtrack a little bit, for this emergent method, the company, they do something called a Hogan, which if you're familiar with is so Hogan is much like a career strengths, or like a Clifton career test, you could say. It's a personality assessment where it evaluates how you act in your best and how you act in your worst. And it gives you a score to different attributes. And with M1, it's like I was like pinging off the hook for like ideation was one of them. And apparently I'm a horrible learner, which who knew? EOD school should have phased that out. But additionally to that, it's like I got to talk to a few people that let me know that some of the characteristics that I have were pretty rare, and they also were quite similar to like successful entrepreneurs, which I was like, all for. It's just cool to hear, one, but two is like, maybe that test's wrong, but also it got me thinking like how much I do love ideation, how much I love execution, and being able to have the free flowing ability and just like autonomy to create and do was something that started really ringing true, and something that I think the more I thought about it, the more I realized that was the right thing. So I had an opportunity that came up about a month ago. I was a board member for a school security foundation, which is a foundation that helps out schools and being active in their security for after the Uvalde shooting. This is where the foundation kind of stood up. But the chair of she has a medical company, a medical delegation company, and we'd gotten to know each other quite a bit. The opportunity came up where she's looking to expand and scale her technology stack, and that's kind of exactly up my alley. It's my sweet spot, and we didn't get to go over it, but after my deployment to Somalia, I bought, built, and sold different applications and web apps, kind of went down the SEO advertising game, and all while finishing my bachelor's degree. So I was a little cracked then, as you'd say, but yeah, dude. So like I was kind of itching for that again. And it was one where I got to talk with her. One, she's doing an amazing thing, medical delegation for assisted living facilities in an area that truly needs it. And additionally, like not only is she doing a good thing, she's an amazing human being. So that's hitting 2 wickets already. But then it's also positioned in a space and a time to where MVP and PMF product market fit and the minimum viable product's already there. And it's just about actually like implementing a really good solution, a software solution, and then scaling it. And it's one of those where, an opportunity like this doesn't come knocking every day. And I wasn't looking for it, but it's one that hit me. And sometimes say to Singer or Divine or anything else, it was just one of those things that you can't ignore it, So yeah, dude. So that's what's next.
Dude, that's wild. So like, what was the moment where you knew like, I think I need to take this thing? Like, what stars? What was that? Was there like a singular moment that you're like, wow, this is just the right thing. I need to do this.
There was absolutely a singular moment, and obviously, we talk a lot, So the cat's out of the bag. Where you might be like the you might be the one on my shoulder that's just hyping me, which I love, dude. And I won't always be that for you, there was a period where I wanted to make sure. Initially, we were looking to go and get a contractor for, and I had experience in doing that with the prior businesses that I ran and sold. So ideally, she'd been taken advantage of, sadly, by some other contractors that we didn't want to make happen anymore, and there were some time zone issues that we wanted to correct. So I was just initially just going to help her as a friend and find someone ideally in South America that was extremely competent and could build out their solution for a great price and also with great experience. And the more I was looking, and in order to do that, I was just asking her questions about what product she kind of needed, what she was looking for, and just scoping out the role so I could then go to a contractor for her and just help her find someone. And the more that I thought about it from scoping it, I was like, man, I can help with all these. Like these are all solutions that I can provide, and I have really great, not to toot my own horn, I was like, it's been validated. But I was like, I think I have great ideas for like how you can implement this. And so I hit her. I was like, hey, I'll absolutely find you someone, but I also want to offer something. I was like, let me build an MVP out for this on the weekend. I'll just build it out on the weekend, and I'll do a demo for you Monday. One, like if it doesn't work, like I'm going to tell you right away. I'm like, hey, this is way over my head. We can't do this. But then two, like if it's something that you're interested in, let's talk about how this could work. So I did that. I was on one that weekend and getting after it with different softwares and programs. And I ended up, this one I scoped out PRD with the product roadmap, and then built out a Django and a whole Python Django admin. Is it the Django? That's, is the D silent on software too? I don't know. Built a whole setup for her, and dude, it was awesome. It was really, really, I was surprised by the amount of software solutions that are out here, especially in terms of AI that we'll touch on. But dude, blown away. I mean, if you have any semblance of understanding of code base, or even not, but if you do, you can kind of guide it a little bit better. Dude, I crushed it that weekend, man. And then come Monday, she was like taken aback. It is honest, dude. She's taken aback, and I guess we both were a little bit. But I was like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. So as we talked, we kind of went back and forth, and she was like, I want you to join the team, in a role that has a lot of autonomy and a lot of creative ability, and one that has shared incentives. So yeah, dude, I'm gonna be starting this coming up Monday as a chief product and strategy officer for her.
Dude, that's so sick. You go from like being a bomb tech to consultant to like somehow just immediately jumping into chief product strategy growth guy.
Yeah,
dude. What a sick jump. Yeah, so like you've now joined this like super small team here. You like basically, you didn't really talk about this thing, but the reason you could build it over the weekend is like you have some technical background, but really like you super hyper leveraged AI to like make yourself like 100 times more, let's say, levered or like ability. What was talk to me about like what was going on with all of that and like what you were pulling together. Like, let's geek out here.
Yeah, so I luckily was forced to drink from a fire hose from the web app days. So I have some PHP knowledge, a little bit of Python knowledge, a little bit of Java knowledge, but nothing that like you can write home about. A lot of CMS stuff too, and SEO aspect, but yeah, nothing that would prepare you to build out a whole entire front end, back end. and user auth and everything else. So yeah, geeking out, dude. It's mind blowing. As you know, like the current market right now is like it's context engineering, right? So the more context that you're able to provide any sort of large language models, they're able to really give you a good output. And everyone will talk about how the code is slop and everything else, but when you're talking like MVP and actually getting something out to market, not forgetting about any sort of security issues like you might be seeing in the news with T right now or anything else. But like if you have some sort of semblance of plan and well-educated research just for a finite amount, dude, you can create a PRD, a product roadmap, product roadmap, and literally step by step Lego block together a solution. And it was beautiful, dude. I mean, like, I'm not saying like it all went perfect, right? Like I'm talking, I spent 20 hours, right, over a weekend. And maybe I spent Friday too. So maybe we're at like 26 or so, just hacking away, man. But yeah, so I ended up just making sure the tech stack was lean. So one thing that, not to get too deep in the woods maybe, but one thing that AI will do right now is like give you a lot of dependencies. So like a lot of like other platforms like Redis caching, for example, where you don't really need something like that for like a basic app. As you scale, you will, but I made sure to keep it extremely simple to make sure as you add things, right, it doesn't get more complicated and you can mess up and you have to start hitting your head against the wall sometimes and doing some hardcore Googling. But yeah, dude, I basically selected Django admin because it has a full interface. You can literally load up Django admin, then now all of a sudden you have the relational database that you can access and edit. And then same thing for a front end, man, a really simple solution front end that is able to collect data and then display it.
Dude, that's nuts. Yeah, I think you and I could probably geek out on AI. Like, I mean, we do literally geek out on AI for like hours on end to like the detriment of like your wife and my girlfriend. For example, what we're doing right now, like I was just like on the phone with you and I run back in like, Camille, Kyle and I are going to record a long form video. See you in like a couple hours. And then we run out here. So like, dude, yeah, I think this is just so sick that you're like getting into this game and I'm like just as geeked out on it as you know. Like I ended up joining like an AI company because I think this space is so cool. And like to your point, like I think you texted me like, dude, screw you, bro. I'm so jealous of you right now. But dude, I mean, the other end of it is like you just get to build this company that you're now part of and like use AI in all facets of it and in every workflow of your job as you're seeing like you can create an MCP server for, all of these different use cases integrated into your cloud or all these different platforms and then just like automate basically your whole company, which is nuts. And then, dude, you had told me some like crazy efficiencies that you had already found around like some of the email stuff. Yeah, like go into some of that if you can.
So when you talked about doing a stream, my wife was on the couch right here and she instantly was like, well, I'm going to bed. So she like, I was like, get out of here. We got videos to make. So yeah, dude, the MCP thing, I think you initially sent the video over to me, whereas it wasn't Starter Story, right? It was Ideas Podcast.
Yeah, I think Greg.
Yeah. And I forget his guest on there, but it was unreal because he had built out an entire company that was using an MCP server and different agents that were running on MCPs that were, these agentic models are literally going out and doing an unreal amount of tasks that would take a basic person, right? Like, 30 hours a week. So mine, when I think about it, it's like everything, my lens for like helping run and build a company is like, you should always be thinking profit first, right? And with that comes trying to think of how you can have the ratio of your output be the most effective and efficient thing. So staying lean and agile and just being able to have great margins. Mine with that is like, I really don't want to be bloated. So when thinking that is like, generally did SEO for quite a while. You can now set up a Google Analytics MCP server that every single Monday during your stand-up has a complete draft, an SEO draft of how you're performing, how your views are changing, what type of demographic and geography is changing. Is it applying just like what we were expecting last week in our meeting, or something changed? And then you're having a full strategic advisor in SEO because that's what the agent is prompted in with context. So you're getting a $5,000 to $10,000 value for this example. We'll be using Claude Code for $200 a month. And even if you have to stack multiple Claude Code subscriptions, let's say you need 5 for 5 departments, you're talking about spending $1,000 for 5 different agentic models departments to run your business. So you want financial models now to pull, to be evaluating your profit and loss that are all coming through APIs. And yeah, you're able to have a forecasting statement, and you're able to just do so much more with so much less, as long as you plan and think, right? That's the main thing. Is like, you never know if you don't understand it. But you start understanding it, and then the idea is the year of the idea guy, the decade of the idea guy.
Yeah.
If you can kind of dream it right now, you can absolutely build it. And that's the crazy aspect. It is unreal. And dude, that's where we're at right now. And you see it all the time. You see it every day where you're at. Where like people are unhinged, building some amazing things, and no longer are they chained to having the experience to how to build. They just need to have the idea and the wherewithal and the dedication and the drive.
Yeah. Dude, you put that so aptly. It's like the human is unlocked. Like the technical knowledge in some cases is no longer the constraint to build some of these like pretty decently complex platforms. And then to include like some of these other, let's call them like entry level job, like roles and functions. I mean, some would even argue like higher level functions too. Like you kind of have, I think most humans are capable of so many different things, but you've done an exceptional job of like learning a bunch of these other domains like marketing and SEO, just to name a couple. And so like you can go into these agents and like give them the feedback of like, hey, that's actually not quite the input I want. And you can give like really good feedbacks. I think like this is one reason why the world like is now being more like leaning towards the generalist. Like the generalist is going to start to become, well, let's be specific. The generalist who can use AI is going to start to become probably some of the most prized people out there because of like the ability to understand multiple topics and then see all the connections and then see how you can like weave AI together to like solve those problems. So dude, yeah, you're going to build this sick company. It's going to stay lean. And like you've already found like a major efficiency, like not just like on purely the AI front, but like there's like an email component, right? So like even you jumping into your let's call it for your first big boy job, you jumping into your first big boy job is this like chief executive, like already gonna hit like a like home run within your first month. Like how would you like describe a little bit about that home run?
I'll be a little vague.
You told me the numbers early. Yeah. You told me some of the numbers, and I was like, dude, this is insane. First off,
it is unreal. So again, like what AI gives you right now is the ability to really do deep research. I mean, it's kind of coined now as a thing, but like even if you're not an expert in a field, you're able to receive expert answers as long as you can ask the right questions. So mine is, we're going to be building out a platform, I'll say, and in that platform, there's different open source options. And in the, like everything, when you're a hammer is a nail, right? So like one, I like came on board where I was like, I'm going to build everything, right? And the more that I started to think about having an open source option where it would be hosted on a droplet or let's say a virtual computer, right? A server, the cost that I thought would be manageable was absolutely not when you really look at it. Onboarding a couple of thousand customers, and as that scales, the feasibility of, if familiar with the term technical debt, as you make decisions, right, having to go ahead and keep up with your decisions is technical debt. So like how much upkeep is involved. So running your own thing for security reasons and everything else becomes technical debt. And some decisions are more debt and some is less. I ended up revisiting that idea. And that was mainly through the research when I started seeing the solution I was thinking of was going to cost around $160,000 a year just to host this platform that would bring in revenue as well. But as I started looking at it, there's like software as a service options out there that would absolutely do exactly what we're looking for. And it's not a nail, right? Because you stop looking at it as a hammer, and you start seeing like these other feasible options are going to skyrocket revenue and profit just from making a simple decision if you have the wherewithal to be able to dig in deep. So I know that was vague, and it will be until I till we can go ahead and come public a little bit with it. But it was absolutely mind blowing the amount of like value creation that we're able to do within a month just by proper research, but then two, being able to implement these changes is not very exciting when it has to be vague, but yeah.
No. But here's the easy exciting thing we can say. You can at least say that you hit this like efficiency number in like the 99th percentile or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we went from having we're going to say per user, that'll make it really easy. Per user, the cost, the profit that we would get was around 30%. So that was around, after you factor in everything, was around 30% with a hosted solution. So not bad, right? Absolutely not bad. With a lot of businesses, that is, that's some good take home. From doing a different solution, we got it to 99.9975, which is unreal. And obviously it's because scale, right? Because if you're going to onboard like 10 people, that does not work. But when you're talking in the thousands, it's unreal. It's hard to fathom. And that's not including salary time, right? We'll have to look at that and everything else. But just from hard costs, what a change, dude. What an absolute change.
So sick. Yeah, dude. Yeah, your business partner definitely picked the right person to join. And I'm sure like she's just like in these calls with you and she's like, what the heck, Kyle? Where are you coming up with this stuff? This is so sick. Or at least maybe I'm just hyping you up too much, but that I just imagine you go into these conversations and that's just like always how it ends up.
Yeah, it's like, well, have you ever heard of Hogan? It says I'm good at ideating,
Yeah. I'm not good at learning though. Dude, well, Kyle, this was so sick. This is so fun. I appreciate you just like sending it here with me, going for an hour, just like geeking out, sharing your journey. I know that was probably like felt a little tough for you being so vulnerable, but dude, Kyle, this is sick. This is just the start, and it's crazy to think like you and I had just connected. What was it, like back in December? And like the funniest part about this whole thing is you and I have never met still, and we're like best buds.
But soon, But soon we'll either fly you down to Louisiana, or you can talk my wife Nicole up there. So, but dude, I appreciate you always being in my corner, man. I mean, it'll always be in yours, dude, and. Yeah, more to come. Obviously, you have some exciting events that we'll have to share in the next one. But I'm proud of you, dude, and I think we got a cool future coming up, and a lot of other people do too. Just about realizing that,
dude. Totally, Kyle. So sick, and yeah, this is only the start, man. So, dude, you have such a great night. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
After this, maybe. I don't know.
All right, brother.
All right, later, man.